and steady on the magic. Do my thing, I'm healing, it's fantastic. If I fall, rise automatic. You ain't no now, you know. I'm the one raise myself like a tree from the roots. West side girl, cause she lit in the coast. East side girl when she speaks to the roots. Stay 100 cause she on with the truth. Been there on struggle, know that it pass. Only going up, yeah, the pain don't last. Ooh, take off. Ooh, take off. Ooh, take off. This is take off. Shorty like Brandy, fight like Monica. What you know about her? Baby girl rising, way to the top. Shaking the world, don't expect her to stop. Purpose so great, she get what she got. Follow her step, cause she following God. What you need more, got a heart full of gold. Even at times when it's raining and cold. Ooh, she bout take off. Ooh, she bout.
What up, what up, what up, y'all? It's your girl Hannah, aka Ruta, and you are watching the Uprooted Network. And you can already see we twinning out here. I got your girl, you're solemn with me. Hey, look it, we fresh. Okay, we fresh. Don't mind the car, y'all. You know, it's a little ghetto one today, but it's cool. It's Black Woman Wednesday. We gonna make it happen regardless. You know, your girl's out here working. If you know your Salem, you're gonna know her by the end of this. She's always working, and we love to see it. So y'all have seen her before on an episode we did back in I don't even know what month because
Might have
it
been
feels
November or December. It's been a
yeah,
minute.
like really early on, women in the movement, where I had brought on all these beautiful women that have been doing tremendous. Okay, like when I say the amount of work these women have put together, it is phenomenal. And so I was like, you know what, you all deserve your own individual episodes, like because honestly and truly, the amount of stuff you guys do needs to be highlighted. And of course, the TYLV connection. You know, I love me some Vegas people.
And we love you.
I'm telling you, y'all just be warming my heart. Like I'm like, I don't ever have an issue when I go to Vegas. I really don't, because the love is so real. Um, Thank you again. We had to reschedule because my life has been hectic and my sicknesses and stuff. It's been overwhelming, but nonetheless, you are here. I'm excited. I'm sure the Vegas crew is gonna be in the comments soon, but yeah, look at that right on cue. Said, "Hey Jay, have to." I'm already knowing. But y'all, yes, I had to bring your Salem back because you do really phenomenal work. I know you're working with Omna Tigray, and I'm gonna let you get into that. But even before that, we were, working on a marketing team together. Um, and then I just feel like anytime something needs to be done, you're just like, okay, let's do it. Like we got this. Like you just jump in, and you always need one of those people around. So before we get too far into it, let the people know who you are, what you repping, all that good stuff, and just a little bit about your background.
All right. Thank you, haftey. We just saw each other a couple weeks ago. So I was like,
Hmm.
each other again.
Yes.
My name is Yersalem, as already mentioned. I rep Vegas, but by way of Tigray. Mom is from Indicho, dad is from Samre, but we represent, all of Tigray all day, every day. And then I do for work, I'm a marketing manager and I work for a beauty trade show. But pretty much like every additional free time is dedicated obviously to Tigray and hoping to end the genocide that's happening there.
Girl, yes. And you have transitioned plenty of times. Elizabeth, okay, she said, "We right here." I told you Vegas be ready. Okay, they don't play. Hi, Helen Hafte. Um, it's been a journey, and then now you got a fancy title that I always say wrong. That I always say wrong, and you were working with Omna Tigray, and I remember before we all split up and joined different teams and started doing separate work, we were all like, okay, what's this group? What's this group? And you were already helping with the Twitter campaigns. So can you talk about what was that transition? So are you doing similar work, or um, are you doing a whole nother thing? Because I know you a boss lady, so I know you running something.
So I know me and you met originally. It's crazy because it's good that we met, but it's sad that it's been almost a year because we were both joined by this common purpose, obviously to help our people back home. And then I think everyone instantly, when the blackout happened and we no longer could connect with our families, it was just instantaneous. Like, what could we do? How could we do our part to bring awareness to this, make sense of what's happening, and help out where we could? And so I think initially, like, crisis group, there was that huge group chat with like hundreds of Tagaru in there, just trying to find like where we fit in and things like that. And we both met like through the marketing team, and it was just like, okay, how can we amplify what's happening, do any kind of marketing collateral or anything, what have you. And then I know that separately, I think it was like Stand with Tigray, they were the ones kind of leading like the Twitter initiative. I wasn't part of that org, but they were looking for people to contribute tweets, and I was like, okay, I can do this. I like to research the articles and things like that. So kind of did with my daily contributions there. And then one of my like childhood friends reached out to me to join Omna Tigray, and it just kind of, that's where I'm mostly helping with the advocacy there. In addition to at the local level, the Vegas community is very strong. The Tagaro community, if you didn't know, now you know. And I think we
they better figure it out soon. Okay, Vegas is one to watch.
So that was like kind of on a local level, was just helping. And a few of us, like before the war and genocide even happened, there's like a group of us, you know them, the people you grew up with. We were kind of imagining like, what does the Tagaro community in Vegas look like? Like, how can we make it stronger? How can we service the people of all ages and not just, make sure that no one feels like they're not a part of something bigger? And we set that foundation probably like in the first part of 2020. And so when this war broke out, I know Agazi reached out and he was like, hey, like, let's start that thing back up again, because we really detailed and outlined like what we wanted our community to look like. And we already set that foundation, in addition to just like growing up together and that level of like, familiarity and love shared there. And so working with them, and then working with the Abeti, coming together with ideas, figuring out what we can do fundraising wise, like awareness and things like that. So trying to balance that simultaneously. Like now for Omna, I'm not so involved in like Twitter. So I'm the CCO. So mostly I handle like the PR and communications. So working to get just additional coverage about what's happening about the genocide, and amplifying the voices of our people back home and anyone that's suffering. And then also making sure that we, write press releases, educate people, whether it's through like panel talks hosted by universities or associations, things like that, just trying to make sure that everyone is aware. Because as much as we think people are aware, because we're sort of in an echo chamber and all we, live and breathe Tigray all day, every day, like the average Joe in your community could not know. And we're trying to reach everyone, because generally what we find out is that when people know more, they'll want to do more. That's kind of been our experience. So just trying to get people as knowledgeable, because one of the things that we're fighting against is the level of awareness. People know Ethiopia, but nobody necessarily knew like Tigray, Amhara, Oromia, Benishangul Gumuz. Like nobody knows about the specific regions, cities, and things like that, and all the complexities that are happening ethnically. So we're kind of starting from scratch. And with Omna, what I like is we're not only educating people about the ongoing genocide, but also about our history, our culture, just letting them know who we are as a people too. So that's been an exciting journey.
Yes, and let me see what this light is. I'm like always fascinated because it's such a like complex story. So to see people be able to break it down in like a digestible way is so important. Like even yesterday, so I'm working at Mility's coffee shop this week, and most of her regulars know, right? Like Mility's like a really strong advocate, so even the Wi-Fi password is Tigray genocide. So she uses everything to bring awareness. And even there's a guy yesterday was just like, I still don't really get it all. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. I barely do. Like it is like so complex that when you try to break it down, it sometimes feels like an action movie. Like they're like, no way, this is going on still, like in the 21st century. And I'm like, yo, everybody is not technologically in the 21st century. Like there are countries that do not afford the freedoms that we have, right? Like the privileges that we have. And so having to break that down, and then okay, now we got to break down the region, which is like a key point that you're talking about, because when we spent, our entire lives building up Ethiopia. We were those East African, not even East Africans. They were like, "Oh, you're African. What kind? Like where?" Like, "Oh, East Africa." Okay. And then it was like, "Where in East Africa?" Then it was Ethiopia, you know what I mean? So it was always like having to help people place us on a map because they were super unaware, and then to understand um, the way that the government is structured there, when people in America barely understand how the government is structured here, is like another task. And so something key that you're talking about is being the communications person. Can you break down what that means? Because everyone likes to say, "Oh, communication is key." Like, oh, but they don't know the first thing about what it actually means to do communications and what that job entails. You mentioned press releases. Like, what is the importance of that? Because I feel like a lot of people are like, "It's just a memo," and it's like, no, it's more than a memo.
Yeah, like you said it, communication is key. And one of the things that I think like with Omna that I was really gravitating to is just at the core of what we do is educated advocacy. So obviously at the beginning of the war with the intentional telecommunications, there was a desire by the Ethiopian government to just kind of squash any Tigrayan voice, any opposition voice, because they were being that voice for everyone, right? Like, so anytime when the war first started and they were asking for opinions, voices, it was usually someone who was for like, pro federal government or something like that. And our voices were really sidelined. And on a day-to-day basis, we didn't exactly know everything, what was going on, but we heard the testimonies of the refugees. We knew the genocidal rhetoric that has been brewing against Tigrayans, it seems like for generations, particularly in the past few years. So what is happening was somewhat, foreshadowed. And so for us, like the communication is, how can we be an accurate voice to our people and explain things in layman's terms and contextualize things when they are this complex. So, for example, there was the recent expulsion of the 7 UN members. For example, we did a press release on that, and that provides greater context of how the Ethiopian government is weaponizing hunger, and what is happening in Tigray is a man-made famine, because we've heard, after the June 28th retreat of the pro-government groups, it seemed like, it was under the guise of a humanitarian ceasefire. Well, if that was the true intention, why has the humanitarian situation just, it's rapidly declined? And understanding what they're doing to kind of like worsen the situation for people, and saying like this expulsion is just kind of hindering aid efforts to get into the region. So just better like contextualizing with the press releases. It's like our chance to respond to major things that are happening, provide that context, and break it down in a way like people can see it as part of the broader context, which is, the Ethiopian government and its allies' intention to commit genocide in the dark, and with communication that's shedding light on it. And that's mainly what we want to do, and make sure that we have some education behind it. And we work with like a lot of the other teams, and Omna has like a great foundation. We have a different teams, like there's Twitter, there's people that work on content, which you guys see with awesome situation reports and the slide decks that are consistently posted on social media and on our website and things like that. So everyone kind of finds their purpose and works to it the best of their ability. And when with our group, we have a lot of young professionals. It's mainly women led and features mostly women, which is kind of a change from what you usually see like with a lot of these like groups that existed pre-war. And we're just like all happy to whatever that may be, and particularly with me, I majored in English and communication in college, so this is kind of like a transition, and it's applicable, and I see myself like fitting well with this, department.
I'm happy you found a little home. I like that. Like from the rest of the marketing team, I feel like everybody has found like what makes sense to them, which is what we constantly were trying to figure out. We're like, there's so many people trying to help, but like there's no structure. Like everywhere we looked, there was no structure. Obviously, because it's not like we were planning to become advocates. That happened overnight, right? So now to see everyone kind of like figuring out a lane and a structure that makes sense for them where they can do the things that they're already good at. Like that's what I really want people to do. I'm like, if you're already good at something, there's a way for you to use your skill set to advocate, right? Like there is a way. There's also a space. I know that Omna like allows people to volunteer and continue to join the effort because we need people, right? We need all hands on deck. People get tired. We need to be able to take breaks and like give people those breaks and have other people step up and other people be able to step back when the time comes. Um, all of those things are super super important. It's also something that I was like talking to Tech about on Black Men Speak Sundays this week. The important part for me is that our voices are heard and are part of the story, because when we don't do the press releases, when we don't respond to the activities that the Ethiopian government is doing, then there is no Tigrayan voice to be heard of, because the telecommunications is still down in most of Tigray, right? Like they have to drive hella far away to like some border so that they can try to get some type of reception. And this has been a year of this, right? Turning it on, turning it back off, like blocking aid, letting a little come through, blocking it again, right? Like it's just this seesaw that we're on, and the Ethiopian government tries to change its position every other week, right? And so the one thing that is important for us when we're thinking about our communications and marketing is that we stay on mission all the time, and we are combating um like narratives all the time because it's constantly changing, and if we don't, then there is nothing for journalists and other bloggers, news reporters, people who generally want information. Like there's if we aren't doing this work, then there is nothing for them to go off of, and so the propaganda wins. And so I want to continuously highlight that for folks. Like we do have to combat that stuff, and it also, the other key thing for me is to have a centralized organization, you know um or not even just a centralized, but having a structured organization that is doing this consistently, is easily like something that I can point people to, right? Like when people ask me like how can I get involved, I can name like 4 or 5 places. I can say Omna Tigray, I can say Stand with Tigray, I can say Tigray Youth Network in the UK. If you're in Canada, I can tell you United Tagadu Canada. So like the fact that everyone is putting structure in place, and that if people want the education, it's there for them. It also makes it easier for us to stop having that emotional labor of having to explain our trauma over and over and over again. So that's also, I don't know how you guys do it. Kudos to you, because I tried reading articles and I tried doing that stuff, and it was literally eating me up. I really don't know how you guys do it. It's pretty phenomenal, honestly. So that was just one thing, but speaking on that as well, like we did Oh, it's been a while, but we did a podcast a long time ago for a new gen podcast out of the UK where we were kind of explaining things from the beginning to now. We've obviously seen a lot of pieces move, but in that episode we were also speaking with an aroma activist, and since then we are now sort of allied with them. I'm still trying to understand that. But what would you say has kind of been the biggest like change or difference, or do you feel like things are starting to get easier in terms of the work and the advocacy? Like, do you feel like we're getting more support? It's kind of a big question, but however you're interpreting it.
In terms of, I think like back in, I think we did this in November into now. I think the gravity and the necessity is more now. I know that we um, at the beginning there was that blackout and their foot, but just seeing the situation of Tigray, it's just worsened. So I think the need for everyone to come together and act more is greater. You know, to some extent, like this is emotional trauma. It's a traumatizing experience living through a genocide, not uh, what's happening to your family back home, or have they been a survivor of sexual and gender based violence, and living with the unknown times is a bit more difficult living with the known. And I think it's going advocacy, like we know what works, what doesn't, let's build upon it. And then it's just continuing to get people like motivated to participate in the advocacy, and then also making sure that our community take care of themselves, because you need to take care of yourself to be able to help others. It's kind of like the saying that they say on airplanes, like the person next to you. So just making sure that you take care of yourself. But for us, just like understanding the scope, I think a lot of people, this sparked a fire in them and better understand their identity in a larger like Tigrayan context.
Mm-hmm.
So we see this as like, even if the genocide, the Ethiopian government planning to stop tomorrow, right? We know the advocacy is going to last for the next couple of decades, because we've literally been brought back decades, and we know that the trauma that our people are going to experience back home, and even here to some time. So I think from then and now, just seeing like the pure clarity of the acts done to our people, it was like unimaginable. Like you knew, like hearing things, then like as months went on, and just like understanding the level and the extent of their line of relief work aids. They've never heard anything like what's happening back home. So I think develop a sense of family solidarity with one another, and then we're all this one is to come together and help our people back home as much as possible. So I think the biggest change from like November is like you can see like the need is a lot higher. I think we've gotten more organized, and we're able to, like you said, kind of find your niche. There's so many different organizations that have like different greater betterment of the people of Tigray where individuals fit, and that could be at the local level, joining a national or global organization, whatever have you. Just making sure everyone does.
Okay, sorry, it was breaking up a little bit, and I was like, "Uh-oh." Um, can you hear me okay? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes. It like cut out for 2 seconds, so hopefully that's just on my end and not the feed. No, there's some really key things that I actually wanted to ask you this too, because you have been going consistently this whole year. Like I don't know if you took a break. I'm hoping that you did. But I feel like every time I see you, you're on task. You're volunteering at the protest. You have traveled, I think, to all of them, all the national ones. 'Cause I always see you. Um, what are you doing for your self care and managing all the stress that we're under?
For myself, I think like just making some time with people in my community, like having those talks, like with my family, several members of our community at the local level and the Vegas community have created like these mental health events, which I think is has been pretty good just to see everyone come together, kind of relieve that stress. But talking with family, friends, and even it's not like you're ever like talking out of necessarily like which, but it's still like good to hear from other people that care and they want to learn more. I think that's mostly it, and you can always throw in some random TV show to distract yourself. But I think just like the sense of community that we've built over this time has been so strong. So just like relying on them, connect them, having people on me, doing for them. I think that's been my sort of like self care. Also like walks. Sometimes I read, listening to my Tigrinya and my Thrive playlist. It could be pretty like you're in the zone and sometimes you're doing things down, like journaling, like what do I need to do a day, or reading something nice. That's kind of what I do.
I was gonna say yes. The reading something nice. I picked up a fiction book yesterday because I was like, I'm tired of reading about trauma and war, and I'm really tired of reading about people dying. Because if you turn on the news here, we're still in a pandemic. Like we're still dealing with people not wanting to be vaccinated, being vaccinated, hospitals like being filled up again because of the Delta variant. Like there's a lot of different things happening. Um, so every once in a while, I like to escape in a good book too. I'm like, ooh, like I need to not be here or put on a new show. Insecure last season's coming on. Perfect timing because it'll be like around the anniversary. I'm so excited. No, I really, we need Insecure right now. We need like something else that we can focus on because our brains get so exhausted. You know what I mean? Like we're so tired. It's like, who has the time? You know, like I forgot what regular life is. I'm like, what are you guys doing on like what's the rest of the world doing right now? Because if it's not about Tigray, I honestly couldn't tell you what's happening. Like, it's so strange. Even trying to talk to people who are not from Tigray or not worried or working on this work, it feels so strange to me.
Yeah, it just makes you think like,
Uh-oh.
yeah, it's one of those things when people ask how you're doing. I don't know if that's on your end.
Uh, I think you're okay now. I can hear you now. Oh no, it says your connection.
But I think there's so many other. Let me try.
Okay, I think okay, no, you're good now. You're green now. So, ooh, telecommunication.
Yeah, I was. What you heard was.
Um,
Uh,
I think you were saying it's weird, like trying to have conversations with people. is what I think I was heard.
So one my colleague who I hadn't seen for quite some time just because of the pandemic was asking like, "Oh, how are you doing?" Not about work. Like, I want to know how you're doing. And I was like, "This why?" And they were completely taken aback because like you use words like genocide, and you're hearing about people being intentionally starved, killed, raped, and things like that, and the whole barbarity of it. And pretty much every single person that I know has been impacted by some way, like whether like a direct family member or an extended family member has either been displaced, which is pretty likely considering there's millions that have been displaced in Tigray, is turned to a refugee, has been killed, and for some of us, like experience multiple things. So we'll also like continue to work and maintain a level of professionalism because still need that money so you can be able to donate and help the people home. Just like trying to juggle it all. And I always think about like, man, like a year ago, what were we doing with our free time? It's like completely changed, and it feels more fulfilling to know that like what I'm doing now can make a difference, hopefully, for our people back home, for our families.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a sense of purpose, like I have something to do every morning. Like there's something that I can think of every day. And for me, it's how do I keep my community strong? Like I worry about keeping the diaspora together because we are the biggest advocates, and we've seen that we are really in this, like it's really us against everybody. And there are, like, we're still trying to build allies, and we're still reaching out, and there are people that support, but by and large all the heavy lifting is the Tagado community. And so I think you're doing it too, right? We're in both parts. We're thinking about globally on an international level. How are we doing the work? How are we advocating? How are we making sure that Tigray stays in the news? And then at the same time, we're looking to our left and to our right, and we're looking at our parents, and we're like, okay, how do we make sure that all of us also take care of each other, stay sane, as sane as we can, going through a genocide, and just making sure that we're strong. Because at the end of the day, like, if we're not strong, if the diaspora is disconnected, if the diaspora, like, people start kind of falling off, like, we are gonna we can't afford that. We're too small, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's beautiful to like constantly see women and my peers, even our brothers, because I know the Vegas team got a lot of brothers supporting too. We don't forget about y'all. They will cuss me out. I was sure they'll be like, Rita. um no, honestly, it's been so beautiful to see, and I want to give Vegas a big shout out for that. Y'all have been very tight knit since I've known you. Even in my childhood, it was always kind of like a collective. Like if you knew one, you knew them all. Like everybody was always kind of around each other and put on for each other, and you kind of have to in a city like Vegas. You really do. Like there's so many ways that you can fall off the and be on the wrong path, and so keeping community together is super super important. And I know TYLV is doing amazing work, um, as shown by our Ad de Grat shirts. Somebody asked me about it today. They were like, "Oh, what's that university?" And I said, and I got to explain to them. I said, "It's a university in Tigray, and the purchase of this shirt is going to help us rebuild those schools because they've been looted and destroyed, and we're trying to, bring awareness that way." So I always think it's dope when you're able to like bring that into light for people. Um, every day people are like, "Oh, I like your shirt." I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you about it." And it's like it's always everybody's shirt, something different, but there's a way to keep people connected. And they like to buy stuff all the time, so it's an easy way for them to also get involved, which I love, absolutely love.
And that's
So let me know.
yeah, that's how I think like with Agassi, he's always like a big and guy. Like I want to think like what we can do, and so like you said, it's not just about like just a purchase of this shirt and all the proceeds are also impacted by the Tigray genocide. It's also like this is an awareness piece. So people don't know what this is, and you're telling them like you're having a conversation. Well, this is a specific region. We have these 4 universities, this greater context. So you're able to educate, inspire, like donate with this line, and I'm proud of like the members of our community super involved in this because for a lot of people they didn't even know what that is. They're reading it and they're like, "What is that?" It's an unfamiliar word for them, let alone your like region. So finding that education is crucial.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, that's all my wardrobe is. I don't even know what regular clothes. I'm like, oh y'all, you where you going? You got dressed up? Like I have to remind myself, like, oh, you can get dressed up and look cute too. So I'm also trying to find ways to do it that way. So Ghazi, I'm thinking like maybe I need a blazer. Fall's coming up. I know he got plans. I'm just throwing them out there because I like to custom order my stuff. So um just in case he was wondering, a blazer would you know I'm just I'm just a little extra that way, but I love to tell people, but kind of leaning towards, just because my battery my laptop battery is not a fan right now of this whole car situation. So I just want to make sure we don't lose our last question. I know, girl, I'm telling you, I had to make it work. Mility needed some help, I needed some help. We need to do the show. We're gonna make it happen. That's what we do around here. um I forgot, there's a new question I also started asking, which is um we along the lines of thinking, like, last year, did I think I'd be doing this? Absolutely not. But even going further back, do you, like, thinking about kind of like the younger version of yourself, what advice would you be giving that person? um like, what, to yourself, essentially, like, what advice would you be giving your younger self? Because I feel like so many of us are we're inspiring and we are becoming role models to our younger generation, and I think about what are they struggling with right now, and what would you have liked to have heard if you were their age?
I think one of the big things is, well, it's like a couple of things. I think like grace, time to grow into yourself, whatever that looks like. A lot of it's like your early 20s or your formative years, and you're developing who you are as a person. And yesterday's person could have to stick to anything. Another thing, I think, like in the Tigrayan context, I think like for me, I always knew I was a Tigrawati. Like I knew it was. I knew where my parents were from. We went to all the Tagaru club, like all my grandparents, uncles, cousins, first cousins, like all of them are back home. So like that was just ingrained in me, and I always knew I wanted to do something back home. Like, oh, I want to help, and I go back home. But I think like what it means, and for a lot of people, I think like helping has to be something like such a huge scale. Like, oh, I have to donate like $100,000 to buy a pub, and it could have just started like one of the things my sister did. She started before the war. It was kind of like a laptop scholarship where she would award a laptop, girl student, a graduating student in Joe. I thought that was pretty inspiring. So just like figuring out what your impact can be, and what, no matter how like small you think it is, and like you were saying, find it or what you can provide to the table. I think I kind of wish we also just like the way that our community is like grouped up now, like we had that back in the day. Like imagine if we already started this way and this was already solidified. Like we all came together from necessity, but we're choosing to stay together because we have an interest. We find out we have like common personalities, like a lot of friendships and stuff like that, kinds of relationships through this war and genocide. And so I think like just like starting that like before would have been good as well. I think I kind of went all over the place with that answer, but
No, girl, you answered it. I think it's true, and our I think our parents did the best they could with what they had, right? And that's what I keep grappling with too. And I think something along those lines for me has been like look in the past so that you can learn from it, not to continue to harp on it, not to continue to feel like a victim and to feel defeated, or to just continuously be upset with our parents. We can be upset with our parents all day long. It's not going to change the situation that we're in now, right? Like I try to tell, because my younger self was very self-righteous, so I would just be indignant about certain things. And I realized, like, you can say all of that, but until you have walked a mile in their shoes, like, there's really not much we can compare, right? Like, this is the second time
absolutely.
they're going through this, you know? They
Yeah.
they were the ones in refugee camps. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta put that in our minds, and, like,
And
for
some of
them
them
to be able
falling
to
back,
come here.
and some of them were even talking about like
Go
how,
ahead.
decades prior, like they were talking about how dig holes and underneath the trenches because they were being aerial bombarded. And now you're seeing that, like, the same thing with the drones and stuff like that. Like it's really like a repeat of the past. And for some of them, they're going through this like a third time. And it's just
Mm,
insane. Like, it's something I said this before, but I was like, never thought that I would go through. It's never something that I thought I would go through, let alone our people back home. It's not something we're fighting so that way our kids, the next generation, doesn't have to go through this. Nobody has to go through this. They shouldn't. And when you see the like everything that's happened close to a year, it's insane.
mhm.
And you always have like hope that people would you do more than they've been doing, especially considering like this is a genocide. There's no what's happening. But then you realize, like, the most dependable group of people that we can count on is ourselves. And knowing that, like, that you have each other, it's just pushing us to strive for more, and making sure that people take like the where they need to take care of themselves. But otherwise, it's like, okay, well, like, all hands on deck, and whatever that looks like, whether it's
Mhm.
organizing protests at the local level, at the national level, writing articles, tweeting to your heart's cute to see, like, a lot of our parents have no happiness whatsoever, and they're like 3,000 count on in terms of number of tweets, like, since the war started, like, educating people. And they have that desire, and we have the know-how,
Mhm.
and we have the desire now too. For many people, it's been awakened, so it's like just combining efforts. Like, they want to I think, whereas before it used to be like older generation versus younger generation thing, and it needs to be more
Yeah.
synergistic. There needs to be more synergy there, and we've seen it. Like, okay, everybody, it doesn't matter what age you are, we can teach you how to tweet. You can tweet. You can sign a petition, like, share, like, a video, so that way it gets more, attention, things like that. Like, everybody just has to come together.
Oh, absolutely. I think our parents are starting to realize that, but I also hope that the youth are listening, that this is an opportunity for you to really truly understand your parents. If you are struggling, like, and that's why I started Uprooted, right? Like, how are we going to connect to one another? Because nobody else is going to understand what it feels like to grow up as a diaspora and struggle with language barriers and not understanding the culture completely. And some of us, like, our parents were really strict in our house, so we grew up like we thought we were back home. And others of us did not, right? So this is an opportunity for you to finally understand a part of who your parents are and why they are this way as you're going through it too, and to find strength in how they were able to overcome, still raise you, make it work in a country that is not theirs, right? Like, it is an opportunity if you want it to be. it's also an opportunity to have the tough conversations of what things didn't work in the past. And I know a lot of our parents didn't want to tell us about this because they didn't want us to grow up knowing this type of hatred. um but it's an opportunity for you now, especially if you're old enough to understand things, to let them finally tell their story and give them that space and ask them questions and ask them how it was like growing up and those things, because that's where you get your resiliency from. Like, the one thing I will say about Tagato is, like, resiliency is probably the word that I would describe us with. Like, it is the thing that our parents have, um, for generations above us. And, I got that tattooed behind my ear, like, when I was 18, because I knew growing up this way that I was going to need it. I was like, life ain't going to get easier as an immigrant. I'm still going to have to break a lot of generational curses. And most of us are going to be the first in our families to do a lot of things. That is, if you let it, can be a heavy burden, or it can be an immense privilege and honor. And to know that your ancestors are backing you, that your family back home, when you succeed, they succeed, as long as you remember where you came from, where your roots are. And I really and truly hope that people are taking that into consideration. And that brings me to my last question for you, my love. Thinking about where our roots are is, what is it that you want to your legacy to be?
I think for my legacy, I would want to just make like a measurable impact in the world, particularly in relation to Tigray. I want to leave Tigray better than it was before. And I think like when we always think about generationally, the intention is that the next generation inherits better things. Like, it's a better lifestyle. They don't have to go necessarily through the same things that they went through. And again, like, none of us anticipated that we'd be going through this. And so we're kind of taken backwards in terms like specific for, but I think that's just where I want to be. I really want to make, where but it's like, be the change you want to see in the world. And it's like, why not? We all
Mhm.
have the ability to do so, whatever that looks like to you. It could be through education. It could be helping people find opportunities and in choosing to invest back home. And then also just getting people like more. One of the TPN is that, like, in addition to all these orgs helping people like back home, like, they're the ones helping people stateside and helping them getting connected to their roots as well, and helping the so just like instilling a sense of like connection back home, and then yeah, just really making an impact back home that will be long lasting, hopefully, and then helping people to do the same.
No, for real. And I don't think it's cliche because I have that I have that on my wall. I made a painting of it, and I was like, there's some quotes that I like to live by, and that's one of them. If there's things in this world that are not the way you want them to be, or that you like them to be, you have to be the one to change them. Like, it gotta start with you. Like, if you wait around for a savior, you're gonna be waiting for a long time. Like, you are going to be. So I always say that to myself and to other people: be the change. Like, you don't like that, get up and do something about it. You need help, ask for it. You know what I mean? But you got to start somewhere. Like, we can't expect that after this we already see, like, what the international community is doing, right? They're pledging assistance and aid after the fact. Like, they're not doing much. So I think that's a lovely legacy. I think it's one that all of us can get behind. I think it's one that you've already started, I'm sure. Like, there are plenty of younger girls in Vegas that are, like, watching you as a role model now, that are learning, that are going to be able to take over, and then you can go on to the bigger global projects and go back home and start to see some of these projects through. Like, I can envision and see for you and manifest that the TYLV team actually goes to Macquarie University, cuts the ribbon when new buildings are built, bringing the books and um, teaching them how to run their own fashion brands and teaching them new skill sets as well, like, because you already have a structure, and so now you get to consult, and now you can teach other people how to build it too, because you've done it, and you guys are growing, and by the time things are open, you gonna be so big, it's gonna be like beautiful to just be able to transition over there. Like, I could see you having an office back there. I can see you, like, I can see all of that for you because I know that your heart's there and I know your work ethic is top tier. Okay, like, let me tell you, she was about to do this show on her birthday, y'all. Like, she wasn't even gonna tell me that it was her birthday. She was like, "Yeah, sure." I'm just like, "Sis, sis, we gonna have to talk about this because I just cannot. I cannot. Like, there's very few people that I know that would do that, and it just goes to show the people where your heart is. And I'm just honored and blessed to know you and to see what you're able to accomplish. And I know it's only gonna get bigger and better, haftey.
All right, thank you. I want to plug though.
Yeah.
We do, unfortunately, we are commemorating the national commemoration of the winner of Tigray genocide. It's going to be November 4th. So in the DC community, we want people to hear us loud and clear. Those in Washington, November 4th through 7th, have a national kind of commemoration, and it's going to comprise of protest, awareness events, fundraising events, just a variety of things. So you guys can check out Tagato events, like stay tuned that way. But we are planning that, like, we have a bunch of Tagato from different local communities. We're hoping this will be the last one. God willing, let it be the last one. And that this genocide ends soon. But just keep that on your radar. If you're in the local level, please come. If not, I encourage you guys to do something in your local communities, whether that's like your own form of protest or like a vigil or something, just to commemorate like that it has been a year.
Yes. And please take care of your mental health.
Yeah.
This is going to bring up a lot of trauma for us. Like, anniversaries are difficult. We're also getting into fall and winter when you are stuck indoors and you might not be as social and you're not going to as many events as you have been in the past. I will focus on this too, but I really want everyone to think about it. As this 1 year mark comes up, a lot of us are going to be emotionally drained. You're probably going to be very angry, very sad. I want everybody to just take inventory. The self-care things that we were talking about, keep those in the back of your mind. Actually, not even the back, in the front of your mind, okay? Because I don't want people to feel like they are suffering alone. Like, stay together, hold each other down. I say this all the time, but I really mean it. I don't want to hear about Tagaru passing away because of something crazy. Like, I want you guys to really take care of yourselves during that time. I like the idea of vigils because it gives you a way to, like, honor those that we've lost in this struggle, to survive, and that we're going to continue fighting for them, but give yourself a pause to acknowledge the gravity of what it is that we are faced with, and that we have, if anything, also have been prevailing for a year. Most people would have thought we would have been counted out by now. you know we got to believe in the faith and have faith in TDF and the people fighting back home, because if they're still fighting, then we also can lean on that strength. We can honor the pain that we've experienced, the loss that we've had. We haven't been able to properly grieve yet. So let's take a note from those back home and make sure that we are taking care of ourselves just as they will be, and that they have been doing for the last year, and make sure that this 1 year anniversary mark doesn't take anybody with it. So y'all,
Yes.
um it is it is it's a hard one. There's so much that I want to like say. I wish I could give people like big hugs and all of these things, but if you can go to DC, please do. Um, if you can't, like your Solemn said, do something in your local cities. Just make sure you're not alone. Just if anything, just make sure you are not alone. And if you need somewhere to be, you could also find us virtually. Like all of us are always on the socials, so don't hesitate to reach out because we don't want anyone alone during this time. So, y'all, that concludes Black Women Wednesday. Thank you so much, Asylum, for coming on.
So thank you. It's a pleasure. Always linking up.
Yes, man. The next time we linking up, bro, we celebrating something. Okay, we celebrated your birthday, but we gonna celebrate freedom. Okay, we're gonna celebrate some big stuff. I'm manifesting that for us.
We need it.
But yes, we do. Oh, child, I can't wait for today. Oh my God. But yes, everybody, don't forget to subscribe, okay? Don't be on here just liking stuff. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, that you're following on the socials. Like and share. Please share because we need everyone to stay informed. Um, but yes, that is Black Women Wednesdays. Tomorrow I will be on Clubhouse. We're continuing our Uproot Your Trauma series on domestic violence. It is October, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it is a cause that is extremely close to my heart because of the family members that I've lost to it. So if you guys want to learn more, please, tune in on Clubhouse, join the conversation. We got to fight a lot of battles at once. It's a difficult thing, but let's just make sure that we're doing this together as a community so that we can build back better and we can build a world that is safer for ourselves, and peaceful. That's really all we want is some damn peace. So thanks everybody. We will
Absolutely.
see you tomorrow. Oh yeah. All right, y'all. I'm about to end this one. And we will see y'all back on Thursday and the weekend. We will see. Take a break, everybody. Peace out, y'all.